Let's talk about something we've all been told a million times. Oatmeal is the king of healthy breakfasts, right? I mean, it's got that wholesome vibe. Your grandma probably swore by it, and every health magazine seems to put it on a pedestal. I used to think the same thing. I'd wake up, scoop some oats into a bowl, heat it up, and feel like I was doing my body a huge favor. Fiber, heart health, steady energy, what's not to love? But then I started digging a little deeper, and this video is going to flip that cozy oatmeal story on its head. What if I told you that oatmeal isn't always the golden ticket we think it is? Turns out, it's not just about the oats themselves, it's about what you're mixing them with that can make or break the deal. I was shocked when I found out that some of my go-to combos were actually canceling out all those amazing benefits I was counting on. Like, who knew that certain food pairings could turn this so-called superfood into something that's not doing me any favors? Or worse, quietly working against me. I'm talking about things that mess with how your body absorbs all that good stuff, like the fiber, the minerals, the steady blood sugar vibes oatmeal's famous for. I used to dump a big spoonful of sugary yogurt on top, thinking it was a healthy twist, only to realize it was spiking my sugar levels and leaving me hungry an hour later. It's wild to think that something I trusted so much could be undone by a simple mistake. So, stick with me here. We're going to unpack how these sneaky combinations can steal oatmeal's thunder and figure out how to tweak your bowl to keep it the powerhouse it's meant to be. Trust me, once you hear this, you'll never look at your morning oats the same way again. Let's start with something we've all heard before. Oatmeal is pretty much the poster child for a healthy breakfast, isn't it? I mean, it's got this amazing reputation, especially if you're over 60 like me or my neighbor Ruth, who swears her morning bowl keeps her ticking. And honestly, it's easy to see why. Oatmeal's packed with soluble fiber. That's the stuff that acts like a gentle broom for your insides, sweeping away cholesterol and keeping your heart happy. I used to love knowing that every spoonful was doing something good for me, especially since my doctor's always nudging me to watch my numbers. Then there's the way it steadies your blood sugar. No wild spikes or crashes, just this nice, even energy that keeps you going without needing a nap by 10 a.m. I'd sit there sipping my coffee, feeling smug that I wasn't one of those folks chugging sugary cereal and bouncing off the walls. Plus, it's so easy on the stomach. Soft, warm, digestible like a cozy hug for your gut. For us over 60, when digestion can start acting like a picky toddler, that's a big win. I'd watch my friend Tom, who's 65, dig into his oats and rave about how he didn't feel bloated or weighed down like he did with heavier breakfasts. It really seemed like the perfect choice. Something simple, something kind to our bodies as we navigate these years where energy and comfort matter more than ever. But here's where it gets interesting. I started wondering if oatmeal's always the saint we make it out to be. Could there be a catch? Something I was missing? Because as much as I love that warm bowl, I've noticed some mornings I don't feel as great as I expect. Like maybe there's more to this story. Stick with me, because we're about to peel back the curtain on why this breakfast hero might not always live up to the hype, especially if we're not eating it quite right. All right, let's dive into something I used to think was a no-brainer. Pouring a big glass of fruit juice, especially orange juice, to go with my morning oatmeal. I mean, it sounds so wholesome, doesn't it? You've got your hearty oats, and then that bright, sunny glass of OJ, like a breakfast straight out of a TV ad. I'd sip it down, feeling all virtuous, thinking I was loading up on vitamin C and starting my day with a burst of freshness. But then I started noticing something weird. About 30 minutes later, I'd feel this jittery buzz like I'd had too much coffee, followed by a crash that left me reaching for a snack way before lunch. What was going on? Turns out, fruit juice isn't the innocent sidekick I thought it was. It's actually a sneaky troublemaker when you pair it with oatmeal. The big problem? It's loaded with sugar. And I'm talking a lot, like one glass can have as much as a candy bar. Worse, it's missing all the fiber you'd get from eating a whole orange. That fiber's supposed to slow things down, keep your blood sugar steady, but without it, the sugar in that juice hits your system like a freight train. I read up on this, and experts say those wild blood sugar spikes don't just mess with your energy, they can pile up over time into bigger issues like insulin resistance or even heart trouble down the road. For someone like me, who's trying to keep things balanced as I get older, that was a wake-up call. I loved my OJ, but I didn't love feeling like I was riding a roller coaster every morning. So I started swapping it out. Sometimes I just eat a whole orange instead, peeling it slow and enjoying the chew. Other days, I'd sip water or herbal tea with my oats. And let me tell you, my body thanked me. No more spikes, no more crashes, just steady, happy energy. Who knew something so simple could trip up my breakfast so bad? Let's talk about something I used to do all the time without a second thought. Scooping a big dollop of flavored yogurt or splashing some sweetened milk into my oatmeal. It felt like the perfect match, you know? I'd grab that strawberry yogurt from the fridge or that vanilla-flavored milk my grandkids love, stir it in, and sit down to what I thought was a healthy, creamy breakfast treat. The oats got this sweet, silky vibe, and I'd tell myself I was being smart. Protein from the yogurt, calcium from the milk, fiber from the oats, all in one bowl. But then I started feeling off. My joints would ache a little more some days, and I'd get this foggy tiredness that didn't make sense for a good meal. That's when I learned the truth. Those flavored yogurts and sweetened milks aren't as friendly as they seem. They're packed with added sugars, sometimes more than a dessert, and that's where the trouble starts. I found out that all that extra sweetness doesn't just pile on the calories. It can spark chronic inflammation, this quiet troublemaker that creeps into your body and messes with everything. Your joints, your energy, even your heart over time. I was stunned. I thought I was doing something good, but I was basically turning my oatmeal into a sugar bomb. The experts say it's not worth it. Those little indulgences can add up to big problems like weight gain or even stuff like diabetes down the line. So I made a switch, and it was easier than I expected. Now I go for plain, unsweetened yogurt. It's still creamy, and I can jazz it up with a few fresh berries if I want to kick. Same with milk. Unsweetened almond or regular milk does the trick without the sugar overload. Let me tell you, my mornings feel lighter now. No more aches, no more haze, just a bowl of oats that actually works with me, not against me. It's crazy how a small tweak can make such a big difference. Let's move on to something I used to think was the ultimate breakfast indulgence. Those crispy strips of bacon or juicy sausage links alongside my oatmeal. Oh, I loved it. The smell alone would fill the kitchen, and I'd sit down with my bowl of oats and a side of that salty, smoky goodness, feeling like I was treating myself to something special. My dad used to cook it up every Sunday, and I carried that tradition right into my own mornings. Figured it was fine as long as I didn't overdo it. But then I started noticing my rings felt a little tighter some days, or my chest would feel this odd heaviness I couldn't shake. I brushed it off as just getting older, but then I learned the real scoop on processed breakfast meats, and it stopped me in my tracks. Turns out, bacon and sausage aren't just tasty. They're loaded with sodium and all sorts of chemicals I can't even pronounce. We're talking preservatives and nitrates that sound like they belong in a lab. Not on my plate. I dug into it. And the experts say all that salt can send your blood pressure soaring, while those funky additives start gumming up your arteries over time. For someone like me, who's already keeping an eye on my heart health, that was a red flag I couldn't ignore. It's like these meats were waging a quiet war on my cardiovascular system. I didn't want my breakfast to be the thing that slowed me down, or worse, landed me in the doctor's office more often. So I started rethinking my plate. Now, if I want that savory kick, I'll grill up some lean turkey or a handful of mushrooms, still delicious, but without the sodium overload. Sometimes I'll just let the oats shine on their own with a sprinkle of herbs. Let me tell you, I feel so much lighter now. No more puffiness, no more weird pressure, just a morning meal that's got my heart back instead of working against it. Who knew my old favorite could be such a sneaky troublemaker? Now, let's shift gears to something that's turned my oatmeal game into pure joy berries. I'm talking about those little bursts of color, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries that I started tossing into my bowl a while back. And oh, what a difference they've made. I used to think plain oats were fine, maybe a drizzle of honey if I was feeling fancy. But then my friend Sue, who's always got some health tip up her sleeve, said, "You got to try berries with that." I grabbed a handful of blueberries from the fridge one morning, sprinkled them over my warm oats, and took a bite. It was like a party in my mouth. Sweet, a little tart, and that pop of flavor just woke everything up. But it's not just about taste. These tiny gems are like nature's secret weapon. They're packed with antioxidants, Think of them as little shields fighting off the wear and tear in your body, keeping inflammation at bay. I read somewhere that they're especially good as we get older, helping protect our cells from all the chaos life throws at us. Then there's the fiber. Oats already have plenty, but berries add this extra boost that keeps my stomach happy and humming along. No sluggishness in sight. And here's the part that really got me excited. Cognitive benefits. Sue told me about studies saying berries can sharpen your brain, keep your memory crisp, maybe even fend off that foggy feeling I sometimes get when I'm juggling too many things. I've noticed I feel a bit clearer-headed on berry days, like I can tackle my crossword puzzle without second-guessing every word. It's so easy too, just a handful, fresh or frozen, stirred into my oats, and I'm set. Sometimes I'll mash a few raspberries in for a jammy swirl. It's like dessert for breakfast, but the kind that loves me back. Now, I can't imagine my mornings without them. It's this simple little addition that makes me feel vibrant, inside and out, and I'm betting it'll do the same for you. Let's talk about two little additions that have totally upgraded my oatmeal lately: chia seeds and walnuts. I'll be honest, I didn't even know what chia seeds were a few years ago. I thought they were just for those quirky sprouting pets you see on TV. But then my daughter brought some over one morning, tossed a spoonful into my oats, and said, "Mom, you're gonna love this." She wasn't kidding. They're tiny, but when they soak up the milk or water in my bowl, they turn into this fun, pudding-like texture that makes every bite feel a little indulgent. And walnuts? I've always loved their crunch, but I used to save them for baking until I started crumbling a few over my oatmeal and realized they're breakfast gold. What's so special about them? Well, it's all about those healthy fats and omega-3s they're packed with. I've been hearing more about how these fats are like fuel for your heart, keeping things running smooth and steady, which is huge for me since I want to keep up with my grandkids without huffing and puffing. Then there's the brain boost. Omega-3s are supposed to keep your mind sharp, and I swear I felt a little less scattered on days I add these in. Maybe it's just me, but I like thinking my morning bowl is helping me remember where I parked the car. Plus, they've got fiber. Chia seeds especially turn my oats into this satisfying, stick-with-you meal that keeps me full way past noon. I'll mix a tablespoon of chia seeds in while the oats cook, then sprinkle a handful of chopped walnuts on top, sometimes with a drizzle of honey for extra yum. It's so simple, but it feels like I'm giving my heart and brain a big high five every morning. My friend Tom tried it after I raved about it, and now he's hooked too. Says he feels like $1,000,000. These little powerhouses have made my oatmeal a whole new adventure, and I bet they'll do wonders for you too. So, as we wrap up this little breakfast journey, there's one big takeaway I want to leave you with. It's all about making mindful choices and weaving in those small, healthy changes that stick around for the long haul. I used to think eating well meant overhauling everything overnight, tossing out all my favorites and choking down stuff I didn't even like. But that's not what this is about. I remember chatting with my friend Linda, who's been on this health kick lately, and she said something that stuck. It's not about perfection. It's about paying attention. That hit me hard. Take my oatmeal. I didn't ditch it when I learned it wasn't always the saint I thought it was. Instead, I started tweaking things little by little, swapping that sugary yogurt for a plain one, skipping the bacon for some walnuts, or tossing a handful of berries instead of guzzling orange juice. It's these tiny shifts that have made my mornings feel so much better. And here's the thing, they don't feel like sacrifices. I'm still eating food I love. I'm just being smarter about it. This video's all about that. Show you how to look at your plate with fresh eyes and ask, how can I make this work for me? Not against me. Because it's not just about today. It's about feeling good years from now, keeping up with life's little joys, whether that's gardening or chasing after the grandkids. I've noticed I've got more pep in my steps since I started paying attention, and my aches don't nag me as much. It's like planting seeds for my future self, one spoonful at a time. You don't have to do it all at once. Start with one change, maybe those chia seeds we talked about, and see how it feels. I'd love to hear what you try. Drop in the comments. Small steps, big wins. That's the secret to a diet that's not just a phase, but a way to thrive for the long run. Let's wrap this up with some simple swaps that have turned my oatmeal from a potential troublemaker into a breakfast I can't wait to dig into. And I promise, you'll love these too. This video's been all about spotting those sneaky additions that can drag oatmeal down like sugary juices or processed meats and kicking them to the curb. So what do we replace them with? First off, water. It sounds basic, but hear me out. I used to drown my oats in sweetened milk, thinking it was the only way to make them creamy, until I tried cooking them with plain water. It's like a clean slate, light, pure, and lets the oats shine without any hidden junk. Then if I want that creamy vibe, I'll stir in a spoonful of unsweetened yogurt or a splash of plain milk. None of that flavored stuff that sneaks in sugar I don't need. It's still rich and smooth, but now it's working with me, not spiking my blood sugar out of nowhere. Next, berries. I can't say enough about them. A handful of blueberries or strawberries on top adds this burst of sweetness that's all natural. Plus, they make my bowl look like a little masterpiece. Nuts and seeds are my other go-to. I'll sprinkle some walnuts for that satisfying crunch or mix in chia seeds that puff up and make it feel like a treat. And here's my secret weapon, cinnamon. Just a dash, and suddenly my oats taste warm and cozy, like a hug in a bowl. No sugar required. I started doing this after my sister raved about how she ditched her old syrup habit, and now I'm hooked. It's so easy, and I feel the difference. No more heaviness, no more crashes, just a bowl that's light, tasty, and actually good for me. Give it a shot. Start with water and a few berries tomorrow, maybe a sprinkle of cinnamon, and see how it feels. It's these little changes that make oatmeal the hero it's meant to be, and I bet you'll be amazed at how good simple can taste.